All right, Andrew Richardson, you are on Driven to Ride. Thank you for being here.
Not a problem. Thank you for inviting me, Mark. Really, really appreciate
Yeah. So your background kind of gives it away, but
it.
I'll start with what maybe do people most know you for, or what's your kind of claim to fame in your own words?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I've been sort of the face of RealRider now for over a decade.
Hmm.
And when you launch a product, you go to the big bike shows, and people kind of know you from that. And I was always known as Mr. Real Rider, which is a real cliche. It's like awful, because at the time I actually wasn't riding a motorcycle, which was very naughty. But I kind of knew enough about what we've been doing in safety and stuff for a long, long time. So
Sure.
everybody assumed I rode a motorcycle. But yeah, just the face of the product of the brand really, and it's because I say it's been around. We've been around for quite a long time, but. That's probably my claim to fame. I can't really think of many other things, but yeah, that's probably about it.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's a great start. I mean, you're doing yeoman's work for the motorcycle community through Real Rider. So,
Yeah,
before we get to you, can we get the quick and dirty on what Real Rider is?
yeah. So Real Safe Technology is the parent company, which we're a public safety company, which deals with developing and maintaining software. Mainly for motorcycles, but we do work within the car sector. And Real Rider is our kind of halo product, the product that's been around for a long time, and it's a motorcycle-based app crash detection system. What's unique about us, why we've been around for so long, is that we were the first automated crash detection service to plug directly into the emergency services,
Uh,
which we've been doing now for over a decade. Which we're still the only company, certainly for motorcycling, that's permitted to connect directly to the 999 service here in the UK, but also to North America, Europe, Australia, and other countries. So effectively, it's a impact detection, and the kind of really unique thing about us is we always spend loads of time on validating the crash, which
mhm.
is quite important because I've had various products that have had these things built into them, and they tend to go off when I don't want them to go off. so,
Sure. Yeah. False positive.
and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we've been very, very different. But we record our journeys. We have a system called group riding, which is it's pretty good for us when we're all meeting up, or if
Hmm.
we're on a tour somewhere and someone takes the wrong turn. At least we can all stay on the map. But primarily, we're a safety driven service, using the technology within the smartphone, which is easily interchangeable. Obviously, you don't have to buy any expensive hardware. And
Right.
we're the first to do it, and still the first to connect into the emergency services.
Nice. Well, we'll dive into Real Rider in a little bit, but we got to take a couple of steps back.
Yes.
When you were developing this, you said you didn't ride a motorcycle at the time.
Yeah.
So then how did you get into motorcycling? Because you're an avid rider now. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, as always growing up, it was the trials bikes. It was I wasn't allowed to have a motorcycle, which was really annoying. They would let me have flying lessons, right?
oh,
Great,
wow.
but
Okay. Yeah.
I want to ride a motorcycle, so I wasn't allowed, which was very frustrating. But I think it's probably over a decade, well, 2 decades ago now. We were heavily involved in safety services. We had a company that was developing initiatives to, a motorcycle was one major part of it, but there was lots of things. And we got involved in this project. We developed this project called Handle It or Lose It, which primarily was about, giving riders the kind of skills to see the bend before they physically hit the bend. So it was a public engagement program, but we had a rider development part of it as well, which the off-duty police ran, and it was basically taking guys on sports bikes who were coming into one of the counties near us and crashing because they didn't know the roads.
Mm,
And that's kind of where my sort of love for and appreciation for motorcycling really accelerated to the point where I was like, I want to get one. But I had two very, very young children at the time that I was responsible for. So the kind of inner me wanting to ride a motorcycle was kind of, I can't do that because I've got to be a responsible adult. And
sure. Yeah.
so it wasn't because I didn't want to ride; it was because it wasn't appropriate at the time. to
Makes
do it
sense. Yeah.
for family reasons. But having been around the motorcycling arena for so long, and I think getting involved in certainly making some of the films that we made, it really gives me a lot of knowledge around reading the road and not so much the machine control, because I wasn't obviously a rider, but I had a lot of knowledge from an advanced perspective, so that when I finally took the leap and got on a motorcycle, a lot of that came naturally.
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
just needed some time on the bike. So it was one of those things where everybody just assumed, "Oh, what do you ride?" Well, I'm in between bikes at the moment,
Good answer. I
because
like that. Yeah.
I knew my craft, and we were winning awards, we were doing things. Really, this was before Facebook came out. This was like 2002, 2003. We were doing things with web, with
Mm-hmm.
getting guys to share their pants filling moments. I mean, the things we did. We had a 40-foot inflatable biker Bob that had a pair of pants over his leathers, and we were giving away pants that had flybytheseatofpants.com on the back,
Nice.
handleitaloseit.com, and it was because nobody really knew who was behind it, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so garish. We had like an R1 and a ZX10R, which at the time were the sports bikes, and we had
Yeah.
them all
Yeah.
branded up and that. And people were like, "What? Who are you guys?" But we were talking to them about the common mistakes that are made. Certainly, so much the junctions, but at the turn on left and right hand bends, where riders just don't even see the signs because
Mm-hmm.
they're obviously giving it some. And it was very much about how we were helping those guys to get the skills to then enjoy the corner rather than
Okay.
break, and it
Right.
kind of, that's where a lot of people knew me from as well, from getting into motorcycling in the early days. Really, it was great, but everybody around me was riding bikes and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Just really frustrating, really.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like interesting too, because like you said, you came in with kind of all the safety perspectives and the
Yeah,
safety knowledge and stuff in mind
yeah,
first. So
yeah.
you think that helped when you jumped on the bike, or was it were you a little more maybe had a little more trepidation at the start?
I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, so it really didn't. I was aware of my vulnerability, I suppose, from having done the studies, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
when we started looking into making the films for the highways agency, the web thing was very, very successful, but we met somebody who was a bit of a maverick in the highways agency in the UK, who, having engineered as much as they could on the road network, wanted to do some more kind of education.
Mm-hmm.
It was a natural. We were looking using photography at the time, and the kind of natural step forward was to go and make some films and to kind of film this from helicopters, get the guys to really do the kind of commentary rides. So
Oh,
from the
okay. Yeah.
perspective of the guy, Glenn Julian at the time, who was an extremely advanced, very, very capable rider, it was his view as an instructor on how to get around bends and all those kind of
Yeah.
things. So I had all of that kind of knowledge, and it just excited me more. But also having an appreciation that if you don't take it seriously, not to take it seriously, but if you don't get the skills, if you don't develop your riding, how can I, how can I not then go and do my advanced riding if we're talking about advanced skills? So for me, the
Mm-hmm.
natural step, as soon, literally, I just passed my test, I went and straight away and did my advanced riding,
Oh,
because
wow. Okay. Yeah.
it was the natural thing to do. I wanted to, get the skills, so that at least as I was starting to get time on the bike, I was applying those skills. And yeah, I was, I went straight into my first bike was the R1200 RS, which,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. It was like, well, if I'm going to do it properly. So that was my first
Yeah.
owned bike.
Okay.
BMW had given us an F800 GS for 6 months, because we had a big partnership with BMW back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of passed my test in the winter. What a great time to ride!
Oh, right. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, slipping all over the place. It was great. Straight onto the GS. I had that for 6 months. Did about 8,000 miles in 6 months. Just went everywhere on
Wow.
it. And then I didn't ride from I think it was the October until the February, when I bought
Mm-hmm.
the R1200, and that was just yeah, you knew you were going to have to really develop some skill to control it. But I wasn't fearful. I was just dead excited to apply what I'd learned into, getting to know the machine and getting to know what I could do as a rider.
Yeah, for sure.
Fortunately, I had people around me who are still like lifelong friends now who took me out, and I learned a lot from them, and they're all experienced advanced riders. And they used to take the mick when I came around a bend and was over the double whites, like, oh! Because I just, there's a lot to take in, when you jump
Yeah.
onto a bike. It sometimes it takes a bit of time to get used to it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like taming the beast, especially if you've got a
Yeah,
1200cc bike underneath you,
yeah,
that's like, the super sport or whatever. Or like I went from a 400 to a 1200,
mm,
but then went back down to a 900. But the big difference was that the 900 was like a new bike instead of like a couple decades old motorcycle.
yeah,
So I learned how to ride with ABS, with traction control, fuel
yeah,
injection, like the on off switch of a
mm,
throttle. I mean, you had to learn all over again. So
yeah,
totally get it.
yeah. And do you know what was funny is that I didn't know anything about the Dynamic Pro until I'd done about 40,000 miles on it. So
Oh, really?
someone said to me in one of the Facebook pages or whatever, oh, so how are you finding Dynamic Pro? And I went, Dynamic what? I didn't know. I mean, how naive of me not to go. For me, I just got on the bike and I enjoyed it, and
Sure.
it was about learning that, and I discovered Dynamic Pro. It was like handling it and learning it all over again, because the difference of coming out of a corner with obviously an extra power mode
Hmm.
was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And the one I've got now, which is the new 1250 RS, has got it's Dynamic Pro, which is even quicker.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think really now I'm happy enough to kind of appreciate the bike, and I don't really use the Pro that often. I think
Right.
what the dynamic is fast enough, unless there's certain roads where we want to just open up a little bit. But yeah, I think jumping into the big bike and commuting to work every day. So I
Hmm.
went straight
Sure.
from getting to this bike and doing an 80-mile round trip every day, like literally all year round. The only time I wouldn't ride would be in the snow.
Sure.
And living in northern England, we wasn't the best of weathers, but I learned a lot again about machine control. And yes, the traction control and things were there. I do remember one morning it was dark, and there was a country road I used to go up to get to one of the big motorways,
Hmm.
and I think there'd been some mud on the road. And as I remember coming around the bend, and I'm looking and thinking, why is my back end going that way?
It's not the way it's supposed to go. Yeah.
And the lights were all lighting up on the dashboard. I was like, okay. So that was quite interesting. But it was just for me, just throw myself into it, embracing it, and learning the craft and learning from others as well. And well, that's sometimes it's a good thing and a bad thing, isn't it? People learn from other people and it's sometimes pick up their bad habits. Fortunately, I was
Sure.
riding with people who enjoyed, making progress as we call it here, but also was very respectful of getting the skills
Hmm.
and kind of honing those skills, and for me being the best rider I could be,
Yeah.
and being quite respectful of the bike.
Well, and yeah, like you mentioned you're in northern England, so you're not really anywhere near London. I think most people
No,
would think like you're doing urban or city driving, but are you really kind of more rural riding, or like what's
yeah,
unique about
yeah.
kind of that northern England landscape in
I,
terms of
I mean,
motorcycling?
yeah, we're blessed. We have some of the arguably some of the best roads, certainly in England, because
Hmm.
we're based in the northeast, which is near the coast. However, I can ride within half an hour, 45 minutes in any direction, and have some of the best roads. I mean, North Yorkshire's on my doorstep, and then they've got the Yorkshire Dales, we've got the Pennines. So we tend to get up early. It's a nice one Sunday, because Sunday we'll get up really, really early. So we'll leave at 7:30, and
Okay,
we're
yeah.
out and we've done most of it before everybody else goes out. So when we're coming back, everyone's going out. So the roads are pretty quiet. But we go up and we ride somewhere up in, it's called Alston, which is up the Pennines, and there's a road that goes down from Hartside to Melnbury, and it's pretty hair raising if you don't know it, because you've got hairpins, it's quite steep. So going down, I like it going down, but the engine braking on the RS is pretty good, but you've really got to think about, knowing where the bends are, and
you're
avoiding
warming the brakes up
cyclists.
a fair amount.
Yeah. So you tend to. It's an interesting ride going down, and I managed to get me first 46-degree angle going around the left-hand bend, which I thought, any minute now, my centre stand's gonna, because I know I've gone over as far as I can because my centre stand starts digging in, but
right.
But you get to the bottom, and coming back up is, again, it's a totally different experience, because you are on the power, but you're also rolling off and pulling the bike round. And we just go up and down. We just we go up and down. We have the cameras running, and that's a really good one for us when we haven't ridden as much. Certainly this winter it's been a really bad winter, so we haven't ridden as much as we would normally do. So the first thing we did when it started drying up and the salt had gone, because this is quite high up, so obviously there's still a lot of snow. So we get up there and we just go up and down, and it really helps to get you back in the swing of it, and it's great. So we have that. We have the Dales are incredible. We don't do as much into Scotland because it's just that little bit. I mean, the Scottish borders are in easy reach, but
sure,
if you're going to go up to Scotland, you want to then go and spend some time and spend some days. And we are going up to Auburn in a few weeks' time. The group, all the guys, the REALRIDER guys, which I'll talk about later. We're going up and spending a Friday till sort of Sunday tea time, riding Glencoe, some of the Highlands, and
nice.
the Isle of Skye. But yeah, getting back to where we live. The roads are just, and we tend to go for the roads that not many people go.
Sure.
We tend to find the more sort of back roads where you can probably have a bit more fun, and probably a little bit more challenging. But yeah, it's very, very lucky, Mark. We're very lucky where we live.
Yeah, I mean, at least from my limited U.S. perspective, I don't want to speak for all of the U.S., but I think a lot of people from here think that England is just London and then like farm field and then flat and nothing else, like here in the Midwest or whatever. But I mean, you guys have a lot of elevation. You guys have, I mean, I've just seen some pictures of some of the most beautiful landscape. You talked about the Midlands, the Scottish Highlands, all that kind of stuff. You guys have like real elevation, and you combine that with tight turns and hairpins and stuff. I mean, you're really utilizing all of your skills and the motorcycle almost to their fullest potential, if not to their fullest potential. So I think not easy riding.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's what really helps with your skills development as well. As that, and for the way I approach it is, I want to be the best rider I can be,
for sure,
and it is about going on those roads that do challenge you, but also being respectful again of the bike and my own ability, which we'll talk about my crash. But there you go. Given the 100, and I think it's probably how much, about 115,000 miles now since 2015. I think when I passed, so I've done a lot of miles, and the probability, particularly when you're commuting to work and back on a motorcycle, the probability is I think it's like you're 50% more likely to be involved in a crash if you commute to work. Add that factor of a motorcycle into that. But a lot of what I learned from doing the advanced is just looking way ahead, anticipating, looking at the alloys of the cars pulling out, and pretending or thinking that everyone's trying to kill you is always a good mindset when you're on a motorcycle. But to be honest, it's a bit challenging in the sense that you're always looking for what's going on, and I think as long as from my perspective, as long as I'm doing that, I'm hopefully trying to anticipate what people might be doing if they haven't seen me, other than coming around a blind bend and there being a deer on the road or something, which what can you do?
There's just only you're just kind of rolling the dice at that point or whatever. So well, you mentioned it. Can you share you have gone down on a bike. Can you share that story?
Yeah. it was one of those. We've been up walking in the hills again because we're quite blessed with some great walks. And it was a Sunday. It was February. I got home. My son rides. Arguably, he'll say he rides better than me. It's because I think it's because he's younger, and he's got an F900 XR, which is a great bike for him.
Yeah.
He's like 6'2", no 6'4". So he needed a bigger bike. So I was out with him, and I was out with Dean, who's married my sort of stepdaughter, and at the time he was riding, and they've been saying, "Are you coming out? Oh, are you coming out?" I was like, I don't really want to, but I'll go out. So really, should I have gone out that afternoon? Probably not. But so we went out, and we were coming back along one of the roads that we do quite a lot. And I just wanted to get home, Mark. I was like, I'm tired. It was cold. I was like, not really enjoying this.
Yeah, not in the mindset.
No, and the particular road that it happened on is it's not a very wide road. And you use the cross views and things, and this particular corner, you can't really. The hedge is so thick, even though it was February and there wasn't. But this particular hedge is quite thick, so I couldn't see what was coming around. And I tend to always take a kind of wide line anyway to see around the corner, and that particular day I wasn't. And that's when, as I was coming around the corner, there was a car hurtling towards me, and it's weird, is it? Because you're like, don't look at something that's there because you'll hit it. And I was always taught, So I was always taught to look for your exit, and I just looked and I saw the embankment. Oh, right, I'm just gonna have to, and I hurtled down to this embankment, went in and I slammed into the ground, and I was in water. There was steam everywhere, and I was off the pipes, obviously. And I was laid there, just thinking to myself, "What have you done?" And we're all on comms, and I heard them come around the corner. "Oh, Dad, what are you?" And I was kind of laid there, a little bit dazed. And the first thing you think is, "Have I broken anything? How's the bike?" But
right.
But no, I was all right. I was just a bit dazed, and I was probably in a bit of shock, to be fair.
Sure.
So I was laid there, pulled my visor open, and then I hear our technology, which obviously, because I'd slammed into the ground, what it does is it activates, so it knows there's been a trigger, but then it waits, and it waits for a period of time to allow the crash to finish kind of happening. We did base it when we think all the way back to sort of 2010, 11, when we started developing this, and over the years we looked at the science behind crashing. And I remember the Connor Cummings crash of the TT, which was some years ago, and seeing him come around a corner, and the tires just went from under him, and his bike goes off the side of the mountain, and it took about 6-point-something seconds for him to finish, and the bike to finish crashing. If you see that in tumbling, it was a horrific crash to see. And that always stuck in my mind of like, that's the kind of crash that our technology is really designed for, is that you're by yourself, you leave the road, nobody knows that you've had a crash. So we have this period of time where we wait for the crash to kind of stop happening. And then the system starts analysing what's going on with the phone. Are you walking around? Are you still riding? And those kind of things. Because there's lots of things that can...
I was going to say, it sounds like you're using like the accelerometers and like the gyros and GPS, like kind of everything that's baked into a phone. You kind of utilize,
Yeah, we did a lot of maths. We did a lot of tests, and we used the Nissan test track back in the days, and we looked at... Because the thing about impact detection, there's lots of things out there now that kind of do this, and the thing about finding the sweet spot that is... It's not overly sensitive, but it's also not the point where it's going to miss something. That finding that sweet spot is really, really quite a challenge. And impact detection and using accelerometers is one thing. For us, it's what we do afterwards in terms of how we validate that. Because if we're going to package up the data and send your location, your medical information, all those kind of things to the nearest ambulance service as quick as we can, we want to be able to validate that as close as we can to expecting that this is probably a genuine crash. So I'm laid there, and I hear this thing saying crash detected, crash alert will be sent, and I'm like, I was like, whoa, and it was because I was surprised, Mark. Although I know, having done the test and haven't ridden with it, it was the first time I was laid there with it going off.
Yeah,
And
you're in it. Yeah.
it was one of those wow moments that bloody hell it works, you know. Of
Thank
course
God,
I know
right?
it. Oh yeah, of course I know it works, you know. But you're laid there, and I looked at the watch because I had the latest Apple Watch,
Oh, sure.
and the notification was coming through that for it as well. And I had the latest iPhone as well in my pocket, and fortunately for me, I mean, the first thing I did is I took a selfie. I mean, yeah, you know, as you do. Like, wow, look at this.
Yeah,
My
right.
wing mirror had been like sheared off, and I
Yeah.
wasn't really particularly that bothered at the particular time, but I was taking pictures thinking, this is just incredible. And my son and you know, and Dean were laughing because of, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You know, you've just crashed. I know, but look. And it was one of those, like, what could I have straight away? What could I have done different? The guy in the
Sure.
car got
Yeah.
out and came over and says, "I didn't see." I said, "Look, I think it was one of those very, very badly timed. He was there, I was there, and fortunately, I was able to react quick enough. I wasn't going fast as well, which was probably good.
Hmm.
Um, and then it was about getting the bike out of the ditch, and you know, and I remember looking down, and I remember it was in fourth gear, and I was looking down. They were trying to push it out.
Hmm.
And I didn't have the heart to say to them, you need to pull the clutch in, otherwise that bike's going nowhere. Anyway, I did tell them, and we got it out. And I had to ride home. Unfortunately, I was, you know, I mean, it was mud everywhere, and I was wet
Yeah.
and this kind of thing. But I was okay, Mark. You know, I was buzzing because my chairman always says to me, right, well, if you're gonna crash, have a crash so an ambulance can come and pick you up. I don't want to crash because it hurts. You know what
Right.
I
If you're
mean?
gonna crash,
And
crash right. I guess let's fully
ex,
test this.
ex,
Yeah,
ex,
test this out. Yeah.
exactly. And you know, last thing I wanted to do was actually crash, but I had to ride it home without the wing mirror, which was the most weird thing.
Oh, sure.
Because
Yeah.
because I
You're just
obviously
used to
used them.
looking and you don't see.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. You don't
know.
see
So
nothing.
and we had a bit of a laugh because we were going in the corner, and my son was going, "Right, watch out! There's a car coming, Dad. Can you see the car?" I was like, "Yeah, all right." And I remember getting home and like, it's just like, I need to go and get in the bath because I'd started to ache at that point, and I
The
mean, where I
adrenaline's
slammed.
wearing off and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, bless them, they've washed the bike for us, but you just reflect. You just think, right, what could I have
Sure.
done differently? Well, it was one of those moments where I didn't do anything wrong, other than probably maybe not going out that day. But if I'm going to get asked to go out, I'll go out. You know, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, you kind of look at that, and so I was like, fair enough. And I think at that point it had 70,000 miles on it, and I was like, I don't know whether I really want to ride it again. And so I'd ordered a new wing mirror, and which I picked up the following weekend.
Hmm.
And Stephen Brown from Virtue BMW is brilliant. He's always looks after us, and he says, "Oh, I says, while I'm getting your mirror, do you want to go and sit on the new one round the corner?" Because obviously I got this 2016, and I walked around and sat on this new one, and my wife was with me. She said, "It's about time, isn't it?" I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Yeah,
Say no more.
yeah, exactly." That was permission to, yes, you can. So I took my bike in on the Monday, valued it, and 15 minutes later, I'm shaking his hand, and I've got the new RS, which is pictured in the little background there. And
Yeah.
what was nice about getting on that was that it was all of the development and all the new stuff, like the shift cam, you know, the heated seats, heated sat nav, and all the kind of cruise control, which I hadn't had on the old one. And it was
Sure.
all of the refinements that they've been doing. So it was like, it felt familiar when I picked it up, but it was like new and shiny.
Yeah.
And people were saying to me, "Well, why didn't you try something else?" Yeah, but I like it. You
Hmm.
know, I like it because I can tour on it, I can commute on it, I can, you know, I can have it as a sports tour. I can do what I want on it, really. And not a lot of people have had the RS. It's one of those kind of parts of the range where they either go your GS or you go your sports, and it's kind of in the
Right.
middle.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
And I really, you know, when I got it, it fulfilled what I needed in terms of, you know, being able to ride long distances on it.
Yeah. It ticks all
So
the boxes. Yeah.
actually, well, exactly. So I think for me, it was right. Yep, I've done that. Okay, I've had my first crash. I mean, ironically, I mean, thinking about it afterwards, I did a bit of a kind of blog on this when I reflected on the crash,
Hmm.
and you know, the technology that we've developed from a long time ago before anybody else did this. And I often forget how far back we went. You know, we were doing this when smartphones really only just come out. So we've been doing this for quite a long time. But the expectation of the technology that I had on me didn't go off, was a kind of, well, it's kind of positioned as this kind of stuff that does, and didn't. And that really hit it home to us in terms of why we've developed it for so long. We've played around with the algorithms and that really sweet spot of making sure that it's not overly sensitive.
Right.
But it's gonna. I mean, the thing that we're protecting against, people always ask me, and you can look at the Connor Cummings TT crash. We're protecting against those higher speed impacts that are going to do the damage and are going to render somebody not able to call for help. That was the one reason why, when we made those films for the Highways Agency all those years ago, before smartphones came out, the paramedics from the North East Ambulance Service and the air ambulance were doing part of the film with us. And I remember the paramedic and the pilot saying, we'll normally get a call, someone's had a crash. Normally on the Helmsley TT, they'll land the helicopter where somebody's seen the bike and rang 999. But then they have to find the rider. And a lot of the times, when I think BMW and Bosch did some studies into this, and they got the sweet spot around 90% of riders will be thrown from the motorcycle. It's physics at the end of the day.
Right.
They were looking for riders that had been thrown some considerable distance and were unresponsive, unconscious. And you sat there listening to this and thinking, but what do you do? Well, we'll scramble the police helicopter with thermal imaging and all the kind. Having been in safety and having been working in that kind of sector for so long, getting somebody the help quickly is what it's all about. And I think that really hit home that there's got to be a solution. And that really was the pivotal moment for us to kind of think about the technology and start that journey. But I think what we did differently is we went straight back to the Great North Air Ambulance guys and then obviously the North East Ambulance Service that we built it with, and said, we can do this, we can give you that, but is it enough? Is it too much? And I remember the pilot saying to me, because back then you had your phone on your person, there was none of the, if you had a sat nav, it was a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was all around. You've got your phone on you. The pilot needs to land where you are. The paramedic wants to find you. So it was very much about what we're protecting against: a higher speed impact where you've been thrown. Potentially nobody knows where you are, and how can we get the information from the phone? How can we get that into the nearest ambulance service as quickly as possible? And that was our challenge at the time. And that's, when you talk about or think about the kind of technology we had to develop, and then we had to develop, we've got like what's called an International Emergency Alerting Framework, which is a cloud-hosted framework. And it is milliseconds in terms of how quick the data gets into the certainly the BT system or into 911 in North America. Because our job is, has there been an impact? Yes. Is the rider moving? No. We set off an alarm for the rider to cancel it. If there's no input at that point, we're 99% sure that the rider needs help. And then it's about the data we package together. And then it's our responsibility to get it to the nearest ambulance service as quickly as possible. Our job is done. And when I think about when we talk about it, it's still I still think it's pretty clever what we do. Because of all the elements that we put together. It's not just about something going, I think you've had an impact. It's all the other elements that fit together to make sure that the pilot, if you like, or the paramedic knows exactly where he's going to land the helicopter. The paramedic knows everything that he needs to know about you, including medical information. So we've done our job, they can do their job, and that's what the relationship with emergency services is so sweet in terms of what we do. And we've won awards. I remember we won an Edison Award. We won that was brilliant. That was a great trip to New York. We won the European Satellite Navigation Competition. We won that a few years ago, just because of our use of downstream satellite data. Lots of companies in the space sector, it's all about getting stuff up there. We're about how can we use the data to really understand where somebody is and how can we improve the accuracy and all those kind of things. So it's there's a lot of science behind it, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that we have to maintain as a kind of overall architecture and infrastructure to enable our systems to work. And it does when I talk about it, because I don't really talk about that much. It's weird, like when you said to come in and do it, I'm like, I do love talking about it because I forget what we've done and the
sure.
journey that
Yeah.
we've taken, and I think when I was laid there in the ditch, it was like, okay, I get it now. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
you
one of
know,
those things like the average person probably doesn't think about all the back end stuff that
no,
actually goes into this and all the synchronization of all these different technologies.
yeah, yeah,
But really the end result is that, if you
yeah,
do go down and you're by
yeah,
yourself and you're somewhere unfamiliar, that
yeah,
the work is kind of done for you. And like you
yeah,
said, the timing is really everything. The faster that,
yeah,
ambulance service can get to somebody,
yeah,
the faster
yeah.
or the better their chances of getting a full recovery or surviving. I mean, when it comes down to
Yeah.
it, really.
Well, I think
So,
the fastest that we've heard. So I just the guy in Australia, blood bike in Australia, who used our technology one of his first runs to the hospital, and he
mhm.
had an off, quite a nasty off, and I was told an ambulance was there within 15 minutes, which, given the size of Australia, I was quite impressed with. But I think he obviously he wasn't out in the outback, and you only hear stories like that. And the guy I ride with had a nasty crash last September as well, which was again quite a frightening experience to be riding with him and seeing him
Oh,
crash.
sure.
But again, doing the technology doing its job but it's quite a rare thing because you're protecting against that one scenario that you just, if you do all the things that you do right in terms of seeing the bend and everything else, then really our technology is kind of a little bit of it's a bit of peace of mind, when you're out and about. It's when it goes off and when it gets the help that people need is where we really kind of
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about kind of the front end part of it. Can you walk us through like how like the average person would use it like on a ride?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's all about what we do when we get ready to go out and ride a motorcycle, and invariably we've got people coming from different places to meet up. So it's as simple as open up the app. Once you've set it up, once you've subscribed to the crash detection, which is a premium service, you have to go through adding your medical information, your bike details. Once that's done, you literally just open up the app, hit record, and the REALRIDER SOS, which is the safety element, it just turns on.
Hmm.
And we have two options. One of the things was catering for the blood bike community who didn't really want to record the journey. Was we just have a simple toggle for SOS, so you can turn it on or turn it off. So for those
Okay.
guys, they can just turn SOS on, lock the phone, put the phone somewhere, and then go and do a 12-hour shift. And it's minimal impact on battery because it's not recording anything. It's monitoring. We spent quite a lot of time on something called auto pause, which is the system automatically pausing.
Hmm.
You don't see it; it's running in the background, so that when you come to stop for a coffee, if you drop your phone, it won't go off. I mean, I could activate my phone now and turn the system on, throw it on the
Hmm.
floor, and it won't go off because it knows I'm not riding. So
Okay.
that was
Because you're not
one
like
of
at
the
speed kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the threshold that we use, we look at the GPS and we read the GPS point because every GPS point will give you a speed. So we use that as every single GPS point is determining what speed you're going, and we just use that to automate the system to monitor the phone now or pause monitoring so that you don't accidentally trigger it. There are edge cases where you've maybe hit a pothole, then you've stopped, and the system
Oh,
might
sure.
trigger, but that's why we have a cancel button on it. Or if you ride off and it knows you're moving, it'll automatically reset. So it's quite an easy system to use. The way that we use it, turn it on, it's recording my route, and then we normally turn group ride on. We have I have a number of different groups set up on there.
Mm.
Once I turn it on, everybody gets a notification, and then we all appear on the map while riding
Oh, cool.
relative to our location,
Yeah.
which is great. Which is great when you're coming back from Wales. And one of the riders, Martin, someone mentioned Liverpool, and we were coming up the M6, and he just went. I was like, "Where are you going?"
Hey,
And you
man.
could see him on the map, and the map was like showing him off to Liverpool. I don't know if anybody wanted to go home or not, but he then
Yeah.
managed to turn around. But he knew where we were, and one of the guys comes down from the lakes, Gary, And it's great because you can see when everybody sets off, obviously the map shows where everybody is. And as we get
That's
closer
cool.
to each other, and it's just this. It's about, I think for us, it's about creating features that we need to use ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of apps that they've got lots and lots of different features. I think for us, your safety is our primary, but obviously we like to have fun as well, and recording the journey is pretty important to us as well.
Yeah, so it's more than just like an SOS detection. You do have like the
Yeah,
GPS tracking, and you can record your
yeah,
rides and
yeah,
look back at them. And then
yeah,
the group kind of looking out for everybody is kind of cool because if somebody's maybe has to stop for gas, or
yeah,
if somebody makes
yeah,
the wrong right turn to go to Wales,
yeah,
they can catch up.
well, that was a really important piece of development for us because we were solving a problem for. We go out on lots of rides, and sometimes somebody will come on the ride and they don't know the route,
Yeah,
and they might not be as progressive as the other riders. And it was all about giving them that. It is a safety element in the sense that what tends to happen is riders at the very back will try to keep up, and invariably you'll find that they'll overtake the tractor maybe when they shouldn't. And so the group ride service for us was about give them that. Well, don't worry, you can see where we are. Catch up when you can catch up, and to be fair, we then tend to there's places where we'll stop and wait for them to catch up. But at least they're not going to take a wrong turn.
yeah.
And it was quite an important feature for us to utilize because
No,
it's
that's
something we
smart.
use.
Yeah.
Because we use it every time we go out. So really
Hmm.
getting the app up open and turning those two features on is relatively simple. But we're about to push a massive infrastructure update to our systems, which is about to go out this week. So
Oh, cool.
there's a new version of the app coming out, and we've improved the route upload. Has got a little progress bar now, and group riding is going to be faster in terms of location updates. So there's a big old update coming out.
Cool. Yeah.
In fact, I have phones everywhere, and the bikes are fueled up, ready to go, because we are literally supposed to be getting a lot of apps, Android and iOS to test tomorrow. So we're going to be
Okay.
out testing over the next few days. But
Rough day.
it's great, and there's lots of apps out there now, and there's a lot of features that we want to bring in navigation a little bit later this year. There's some other things in terms of enhancing the safety service that we want to do as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is about resource and about the time it takes to develop these features. I mean, we need more people to pay us money so we can develop those features quicker. That's a
Right.
nice little plug, a shameful plug, but yeah, it does cost a lot of money to maintain this.
Sure.
Particularly,
Yeah.
you could ride from here anywhere across Europe,
Oh, wow.
and people don't realize and appreciate that for the same subscription, they could be protected in the Swiss Alps or in Spain or Portugal, and the same if if you went on a biking holiday in North America, then you are protected in North America as well. So you can, and again, people don't really realize that.
Yeah, I was going to say we can use it here in the U.S., right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been live in the US for since 2000. It was 16. I think we went live, and then that was in Canada. We launched in Canada initially. I had to go to Niagara Falls and Ontario, and I rode around Ontario in the snow. Remember that was fantastic. And then we rolled out into the rest of North America. But some of the development that we're looking to do, which will involve satellite,
Yeah.
which we've had lined up for quite some time, will be one of those things where you can go anywhere in the world, and it will get you the help you need if you can't call for help and if there's no network. But that's an exciting development we've got on the roadmap.
Very cool. One thing I wanted to ask, because, so two parts really. You mentioned that like your smartphone did not go off when you initially crashed. Now, this is obviously a few years ago, but
Yeah.
Do you have any integration with smartwatches with the RealRider app now? Because I know a lot of people will put they'll mount their phones on like the handlebars or something.
Yeah.
Do they talk to each other, like the watch and the
So
phone?
no, so not at the moment. It's one of those things. The alerts will come through your watch.
Mm-hmm.
So primarily, we wanted to control the application having the algorithm and everything else that we've pioneered over these years is about keeping that protected and us managing that. So
Sure.
that's within the smartphone, which If it's mounted to your bike and your bike goes down, then it's still going to deliver that alert based on that location.
Right.
Now, it's not ideal, but I think there's been a big growth in these plug-in LCDs that are doing the Apple CarPlay and the
Yeah.
Google Play, not Google
Yeah, that
Play,
is becoming a thing
Android
now. Yeah.
Auto, and
There we go. Yeah,
and
Android Auto.
and what I'm seeing now is people are reverting back to putting their phones back in their pockets
Mm-hmm.
and using the big interface, which is great for us because ideally we want people to put the phones on themselves if they're using our service, but they don't have to. But no, we're not utilizing the watch. We're purely we do in the sense that it'll tell you that it's triggered, but we're not using any of the kind of watch SDK, if you like. It's purely it's purely the phone mounted, or it's a phone system.
I can only imagine that the complication of doing that, the technology just gets exponentially more complex. So
yeah, and I talk about my experience of crashing and my watch on a smartphone not going off. Now I do understand the crash detection system in the Apple system is I know that it was primarily from the research and from what I've been told working within the sector is it was for those serious car crashes.
okay.
But the Apple Watch has gone off more when I've been riding or backing into a space, which is unusual. I know that there was reports, even Android, there's been lots of false positives with people skiing and calling emergency services. But no, I think my own experience of it is that my expectation is that it would have triggered, but it didn't. But I don't know across the board whether the people have had those kind of, and that's not like a crash all the time. It's my one experience.
Yeah, we don't have a huge. You don't have a huge personal test pool of
no
bike crashes to draw from. So
no, so no, it's about keeping it, and I think as people now probably move more towards having a bigger LCD screen, it is about having those bigger screens. I think now that the technology within motorcycles change and these plugins, there's lots of these plugins now that are coming out, these devices. For us, it's about getting that back on the rider, really. But you can't, at the end of the day, it's going to trigger and it's going to let the ambulance service know where the crash has occurred. And if your bike has gone with you over the stone wall, then know there's going to be a search area anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the fact that you can alert like emergency services automatically. I think it's just amazing in and of itself. So
it was really born out of. I remember the Northeast Ambulance Service guy called John Rowland, who was heavily involved in what we did from those early days, and his view was that, I mean, the BT 999 service gets like 119,000 calls a day. People ringing 999. Yes.
Wow.
And some of those can be, why is my pizza turned up? I mean, it is crazy how stupid people are. I'm sorry, but the emergency services are there for emergencies, but people exploit that. So they get a lot of calls.
Sure.
One of the concerns in the early days is we said, well, do you want us to notify family and friends? Absolutely, categorically not. Because the last thing we want is 10, 15 separate calls with people who don't really know what's happened, if they're even near their phones, if there's alerts sent. And we don't want the additional calls coming into the network. We want one trusted piece of technology. We want the information that we need, and we need it fast. And that was the kind of really what underpinned our infrastructure, and also about how we made that faster and faster and more robust. And we've been doing this over decades, so you do learn a lot over those years.
Yeah, I never would have thought about that. Yeah,
and you can tell when there's technology out there that's been emerging, and there's other apps that do similar stuff, and you can tell that they haven't gone through what we've gone through because they've just assumed, I'll tell you what, we'll do that. It is also very difficult to connect to the emergency services. So in the UK, you have to go through an accreditation process, and we helped with that only on the basis that they were concerned that app developers were going to start making things that connected to 999 and hang on a minute, there needs to be some regulation. We're heavily regulated, and we have a big compliance requirement every year that if we start to send too many false activations, then it could impact on us. But the fact that we've done the development over the years, and we heavily test and refine.
Yeah.
So it's about protecting the ambulance service as well, and that influx of emergency calls, which is what the likes of Android and Apple did do globally. I mean, it's not that I'm speaking ill of them, because I'm a big user of their technologies anyway, but it was in all of the media that they were just inundating the emergency services with false
Just
activations,
overwhelming them. Yeah.
and we didn't want to be that. I mean, when we started, there was none of this anyway. We were the first.
Yeah.
But it's that reassurance for people that, well, hang on a minute, if you've done it that long, and you've experienced it, then it's worth a punt, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to something though, that you said. You kind of mentioned it and we moved past it real fast, but did you use the term blood bikes?
Yeah, so we've been a big supporter of the blood bike service. So these are guys that are and ladies that they're like volunteer to deliver urgent blood, medical supplies. There's blood bike services around the world. Here in the UK, we work very closely with a lot of them. They're basically a charity of volunteers that will go out, and it's often a lot quicker for a blood biker to turn up, grab some medical supplies. I mean, they've all got all the and get it to the hospital day and night. And they do a phenomenal piece of work. So they use our service, and we actually developed our service purely to help with those guys in terms of, I don't need to record the journey from hospital to hospital, and it was also about how do we make sure that we're not burdening with the more route data that you collect, the more power that it's going to use. Like any sat nav system is, it's just that's just the science behind it. But with the SOS standalone service, they could just pop the pocket put the phone in the pocket and just be protected.
Yeah. I've just never heard. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so the blood bike, Peter Davis and the team down in Australia, we've been working with those guys now for about 3 or 4 years, supporting them where they go, and it's an amazing. It's expanding. It's expanding around the world, and they do a great job. They're fantastic, but it is a charity, and they need donations and support. But yeah, I was asked to do it when I passed all my advance, but I just wouldn't have the time. Which is a shame, because it's a worthwhile thing, but
yeah. As far as I know, there's nothing in the U.S. like that. So I'm just kind of fascinated that. Yeah. I mean, it makes, like you said, it makes more sense. I mean, bikes are just naturally more maneuverable, and you can get to where you're going faster, and that's pretty cool. I at least I had never heard of that before. There might be something in the U.S. that is that, but I've never heard of anything like that. So that's why I had to ask. That's super cool. So. So let's talk about your motorcycle experience a little bit. I mean, you're obviously blessed to be in a beautiful place to ride, on the weekends or after work or whatever. Have you done a lot of touring on bike around Europe?
I mean, so yes, I'll come back to the Europe, because I managed a European trip last year. But like when I passed my test, and I got onto the RS, so the 1200 that I got in 2016, I stupidly agreed to ride from Land's End to John O'Groats for charity with a couple of guys. I was like, yeah, I could do that. It's a 760 odd mile or whatever it was trip. Yeah, they were waiting for me to ask the question. Yeah, so what do we do? Do we get a van to take the bikes down? They're like, no, we ride down, and then and the penny dropped. You mean we're doing it twice? Yeah. So I kind of really threw myself in the intro. I've talked to my son about this, because I'd done my advanced. I got it first in my IM as well, which everybody was astounded. Hang on a minute, you haven't been right? Yeah, but I had the knowledge, so I knew what I was doing. I just
just putting the theory into practice. Yeah,
exactly. So I threw myself at the deep end. I went, yeah, go on then, I'll do that. And I rode all the way up, and it was a killer, because my thighs were stinging by the time I got to Inverness. Incredible. Once we've gotten this, people go, oh yeah, well, you get to Scotland and you're nearly there. No. Have you seen the size of Scotland? It's like, it's a seriously big country. And I remember my instructor had all been saying about cornering is one of those things, corner, when it happens and when you do it, everything just fits into place. And because cornering for me was always the one where I was just overthinking it all the time. I was like, oh, sure, right, I need to do that. I need to do this. No. And by the time I got out the corner, I was rigid, and so So we just left Inverness. We were going across. It's called the Black Isle, and then they go up the East Coast, and there was hairpins, and it was late in the day, and the sun was starting. Oh, it was beautiful. And I think by that point, I was so relaxed, right? And I'd kind of really got to know the bike, and I remember going around this corner, Mark. Honestly, I was like, and everything flowed perfectly. And I remember going, whoa, you know,
all the gears, just meshed.
How did I do that? And it was like, that was the pivotal moment for me of, okay, I think I know what I'm doing now in terms of cornering. And it was brilliant. We managed to get to, we set off, it was like stupid o'clock in the morning, and we got there at about 10:30 at night, and it was still light. It was in June, it was the summer solstice that we did it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I don't know why, naively, I thought we'd have a fanfare and fireworks and things and red carpet. And we got there, and there was a little old lady stood there. She was next to a car, and she's like, "Have you seen me son?" And I was like, "No." He's on a push bike. Oh, right, where's he come from? Oh, from Land's End. I was like, right, no, I haven't seen him, but it was. I just remember getting there and having that feeling of, I can't believe we've done this. But where's our party? You know?
Yeah, where's the pints? Where's the party? Where's the fanfare? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we had a few pints later. But I think what was for me, I think that was one of the biggest personal challenges that I did, and it was one of those things where we actually raised a lot of money for the Northumbria Blood Bikes at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we managed to raise some money and stuff, and it was really important to be able to do that. But it was great. I loved it. I mean, it was tiring. But the Saturday, we got up, we had some breakfast, and we didn't really need to get back early. So we said, right, why don't we go across to the west? Why don't we go and have some fun? So we went and did Loch Ness, went all around Loch Ness, went over to Fort William, the bottom of Ben Nevis, refueled, and then it was like, we're doing Glencoe. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Glencoe, but it's like unbelievable mountain range, right? But I remember the day. Do you remember the Lord of the Rings? The film The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
So all we could see is all the mountains, right, lit up where Glasgow was. And behind these mountains, it was as black as Mordor, you know what I mean? And it was like, we are going to get so wet. And I remember getting down to Loch Lomond, where it's twist after twist. It was raining. And I was like, I've had enough of bends. Can I just please have a straight road? You know, it was. We are absolutely soaking. I was okay. The only bit of me that was dry was the back of my legs, and we went down into this underpass because we just saw all the headlights and stuff. Sorry, the brake lights.
Oh,
and I managed to go in, and what I didn't realize, it was very deep, the water.
Oh, sure.
And my boots went in.
Oh, geez.
And all the water sprayed behind and covered us. So at that point, I was like, right, I'm completely wet through.
These are 100% covered.
I didn't care though. I didn't really care at that point. No, I was like, well, I'm not going to get any wetter than I am, you know.
That's true.
And I remember, I forget about this trip. And I remember getting onto the A66 from the lakes to get home. And it's a dead straight road, big motorway. And I just wanted to get home. And I remember the last call I'd made is that I'd like a double Jack Daniels and Coke and a hot bath waiting for me when I get home. And I pulled onto the drive, and my two sons, my wife at the time, had to get the gear off me because I was that wet. It took them ages. I remember laying in the bath with this Jack Daniels and Coke, thinking, "Wow, I'm not doing that ever again."
I had a much smaller experience, but similar, where it's like I was coming from. I live outside of Chicago, and I was coming from Wisconsin. It was only about 2 hours. It wasn't that long or whatever. But I woke up that morning, and it was just pouring rain, and I'm like, "Well, I have to get home. There's no option." So luckily, it was all just straight interstate, big motorway stuff. But I was like, "Yep, I just need to get home. And it was like starting to bounce between nervousness of like, okay, maybe I'll go like 70 and I'll be fine. Then everybody's past me. I'm like, no, screw this. I need to get home. Just straight, flat, easy road, doing 80 miles an hour. And I remember somebody passing me in a car, and they just looked at me, and they just like put their hands together, and we're just like, I could hear them thinking like, best of luck to you. God bless you. And I was like, I'll make it. But I think I did the same thing. I just stripped everything down and got in the bath and had a beverage of some kind. I was like, man, Not great.
It's
Not
not
ideal.
great. It's not. It's horrid. But
Yeah.
and the other managed to get away last year. I was supposed to go and do the three passes in the Alps, and we had this trip planned with a
Hmm.
good friend, Andy Fishburne, had said, right, let's do this. It's like, right, great, excellent. So we went from down to the Le Shuttle. So that was a bit of a ride all the way down to the
Oh,
bottom of the
sure.
country, through
Yeah.
the Le Shuttle, straight on over through France into Reims. We stayed overnight in Reims, and then from there we went over to Baden-Baden in Germany, and
Okay.
got there, and we had to play on the B500, which was phenomenal road. And there was this big music festival thing on the night time. We were there eating dinner, and the next morning we were getting up and going straight to the Alps, and we were staying at there's a big hotel at the very top of one of the passes. Forgive me, I can't remember what it was called now.
Hmm.
And we were going to be staying there, and we sat there, and he gets this notification, like literally snow had been dumped across the entire Alps, right? And this was like September, I think it was September we were there. August, was it August anyway? And he says, we can't go, we can't even get to the hotel because they've closed all the
It's
passes,
snowed in. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we was then starting to see reports of riders that were up there stuck in
Man.
snow, and it was just wow. He says, right, we've got an option, because we will take, that was the longest part of the trip. We were taking a few days in Switzerland. He said, well, we can go back via Belgium and stay in Maastricht, which is in the Netherlands, and then just come home. And I was like, yeah. And to be honest, I had about 10 Android phones with me, because we just rebuilt the whole thing last year, and added a whole new that kind of UI and everything else. So I had phones everywhere strapped to me, and I was like, I've done enough testing. It's fantastic. Let's go. And I remember. I mean, it was great. I mean, going to France and Germany for the first time was amazing, and Belgium,
Sure.
but the ride home from Maastricht was awful. It was 712 miles in one sitting. It was a bit
Yeah.
like doing Land's End to John O'Groats again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just absolutely got home via kind of Normandy and France and all around there, and then back home. But it's a shame, because where we were going to ride was going to be fantastic. To do the
Yeah.
Alps and the passes was just going to be amazing. So I'm going to have to park that one for now, and hopefully go back to it. But at least in my, I think now I know what I'm doing, and I would definitely get one of those little widgets for the toll booths, because when
Oh, okay.
you literally hit that many tolls, you have to get your glove off, get your wallet out, put your
Oh, you've
wallet
got to
back in,
dig.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
cars behind me, and like, and you have to like push through and then put your wallet. So I think for me, the one learning thing for that was I should have got one of those little. I think you just pay for them, and it knows when you're coming up to the toll. It's some little widget, and I wish I'd
Yeah.
bought that,
Like a
because
little
it was
transponder, and you just shoot
yes,
right through. Yeah.
yeah. So if anyone's going to do it, get one of those, because
It's a good tip.
if not, I did the Autobahn as well. I managed, I think it was 142 on the Autobahn, which was great. I remember the guy, he says, right, are you ready? Right, okay.
Are you ready?
And the signs, you see the signs where it says Autobahn, and then all around you, these Porsches and Mercedes and these, and then they just they go,
Yeah.
and you wind it on,
And you just
it was,
go. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you're on a German bike on the Autobahn. How much better could it get, right?
I
Match made in
I
heaven.
felt at one with the motorcycle. I really did, in Germany.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so like at 140, I mean, how blurry is everything? I mean, I've gotten
Yeah.
close, but I haven't been that fast.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a one for that top end. I like the fact I can make progress, and I like the acceleration, but I like to be able to see what's ahead of me and plan for
Sure.
it. And it was luckily that when we did it, there wasn't a massive amount of traffic, and they've got like big 4-lane autobahns out there. But we didn't do it for that long, because
Oh, sure.
there was roadworks kind of quite far ahead, which we got to pretty quickly. But I kind of did it, and it was like thrilling, but I didn't like it, because it was like, nah, it's
Too much.
there's too much to process here. But I was like, yeah, bucket list done. Been on the Autobahn, opened the bike up in Dynamic Pro.
Man,
yeah,
and no
it was
rain.
good. No, it was great. We were blessed with the weather. Well, unless we'd have gone to Switzerland, we would have been stuck. But it was just beautiful. The scenery was amazing. Riding through parts of France was just incredible. And the B500, I mean, I think they've spoiled it now with the amount of cameras they've got in there, and it's patrolled all the time. But it is, again, it's the hair. It's not so much hairpins, but the bends are particularly amazing. I did. We've got TikTok running, a REALRIDER TikTok, and I had I had a number of cameras, the Insta cameras and stuff. I had them running.
Sure.
So there is some videos on our TikTok channel of all the roads that we ride, and we upload things there, including my my. I have a bag on the back of my seat, my pillion seat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the other day, it decided that because I hadn't clicked it closed properly, it came off whilst I was piling down this road, the Helmsley TT, and I noticed because my kind of bum sort of, or my back is pushed against it, and it went.
Yeah.
And I remember turning around, and I'm like, it's literally sat on my exhaust because this little kind of backpack thing. Was sat in the exhaust, and it was only hanging on by the wire that does the heated seat.
Oh my god!
I just pulled over. I was like, I can't believe it. That would have been very expensive. Fortunately, the bag that I had that keeps all my camera equipment and batteries was a little bit scorched, but there was no problem. But because I probably realised pretty quickly that it'd gone. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have found it, So that's the only kind of thing that I've lost on the bike.
That's not the worst thing. Yeah. Well, so to kind of wrap it all up, I mean, you've been riding for a while. You've put the miles in for sure, and have taken some trips and even went down. What, after all this time, all these miles, what makes motorcycles still so special for you?
Do you know, I've made probably some of the lifelong friends, and I'm going to give a shout out. So there's Martin, there's Andy, these are neighbours, and there's Scott, who's about to be our neighbour from the RAF, and my son, and there's loads of lads that are guys that I've kind of met and enjoyed motorcycling from being around people who enjoy motorcycling, and when you're riding in the rain and you're having those kind of experiences together, and the thrill. I mean, we chat because we have the comms, we chat, and the things that you laugh about, it's just fantastic. And you just wonder how else I could have that much fun, and those experiences. Yeah. And I didn't probably fully appreciate the motorcycle community until I became part of that motorcycle community. I mean, I was with what we were doing, but when you're out there putting the miles in and having those experiences, and I just love spending time with them, and anybody you meet, everybody gets it,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
we're doing the ABR festival, the Adventure Bike Festival, this year, and we're going and we're exhibiting, and I can't wait. I've not done an event for years, so we're going to go and do that. We're doing Auburn in a couple of weeks' time around Scotland, and then we're doing Wales again, beginning of June, which we tend to do every year. We hire this barn, converted barn, and we'll do like 250 miles an hour. 250 miles a day. With a slight slip there. Don't want to go that fast. And we'll go and do Snowdonia. We'll do Aberystwyth. We'll do some of the amazing parts of Wales. And it's a week's trip that it's just beer, bikes, and banter. Which we talk about over here, and I love it. I wouldn't not do it now, because someone said to me, says, "Well, you had your crash, and did it put you off?" No. Next time I won't go out in the afternoon when I'm feeling tired, But you have to learn from that. You have to take that on board and go, well, okay, what could I have done better? Well, I could have been in a better position, and then and seen them, and then But these things are sent to try you, as it were. But I just absolutely love it. I love riding the bike. I love everything about it, really, and I hope to continue doing it for as long as I can, really.
Amen.
And I hope everybody else, that if they're not riding, get a motorcycle and become part of it, because I don't think you'll look back.
Yeah.
Unless you're looking back to see where your son is, because you've left him for dust.
Right. Yeah. And while you're at it, download the REALRIDER app. Tell us where we can learn more about REALRIDER, where we can get it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to do any more plugging for the app, but that's a great segue there. No, so obviously you've got a website, realrider.com, and there's a lot of information in there, a lot of kind of the frequent asked questions. One of the key things is we don't record speed. People, worry about apps that record speed. So it's never been about the speed for us. Never been about performance.
Sure.
We're very, very protective of people's data as well. So there's a lot of privacy elements in there. You can only so if you record and upload routes, there's no kind of explore where you can see where people live. You've got to friend people within the app. So again, that protects the data. So the RealRider website, realrider.com, is one of the best places to start. Our socials, we're on Instagram, RealRider UK, TikTok, which is where you see our exploits, and our YouTube channel, where we're starting to upload a lot more content from our journeys as well. And if you want to, reach out to us on the socials, if anyone's got any questions, we do, come back pretty quickly. And just embrace it. If it's one of those things that you want to feel safe, particularly if you're going on longer trips on your own, then give us a try. If you've got any questions, then reach out.
Cool. Well, I love it. Andrew, thank you so much for being here, and can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thanks. Really appreciate it, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your day.